the Minnesota Wild podcast, presented by Acrisure.
It's Wild Weekly on the Fan.
Pass it from Kaprizov, Johnson score!
Now here to talk about the Minnesota Wild and the NHL. From the Wild, Kevin Fallness. And from the Fan, Brandon Molesky.
Yeah, good evening. Welcome to KFAN Wild Weekly. Brandon Molesky along with Kevin Fallness from the Minnesota Wild. And Kevin, I feel like it's been a while since we've talked about the Wild losing 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's been a tough go. I just wonder if the schedule's starting to catch up to them. It's not an excuse. Everyone's going through it, but I just think it might be a factor that they're looking a little groggy. And I shouldn't even say that. The last couple of games, they've actually had a ton of chances. Sorokin stole the game against the Islanders when he made 17 saves in the third period alone. So it's not like they're playing terrible hockey. Now, against the Devils, they didn't play great. But they also, they're just not cashing in on those chances that have been falling.
No, you're 100% correct. Like, even after the Devils loss, your guy, Brett Blakemore, the producer of Beyond the Pond, he was like, he gets in panic mode over any, one individual loss. And he's, been panic mode about the Devils loss. I'm like, yeah, for the most part, the Wild created a lot of offensive chances in that game. Yeah. And, credit to New Jersey. I thought the Devils just looked really good. I mean, their execution with the puck, the second half of that game, and specifically the third period, it was just, and that's a talented team. I know they're not high in the standings, but they have lots of talent. So, I'm not thrown off by, 1 3-goal loss. And to your point, I think we even talked about this last week after the Kings had taken 2 in a row from the Wild, that they're at the end of the longest road trip in the franchise's history. And especially given where they're at in the standings right now, Kevin, right? They're not catching Colorado. They're not going to get caught by the 4th team in the Central. So they're kind of just in this spot where they're really not in desperation mode, and it's probably natural that it's human to not have to get up for games like this all the time.
And let me tell you this, Jack Hughes had some fun. Russo had some quote that Jack Hughes didn't watch a lot of Minnesota Wild hockey before Quinn Hughes came here. Well, I got news for you, Jack Hughes. I don't know a lot of us that are watching a lot of New Jersey Devils hockey either. I just know the stats coming in. They had lost 8 of 10 overall, and they were on a 4-game skid. But that team didn't play like it. That's a team that's always had high aspirations. They've fallen dramatically short of that most of the season. But I'll tell you what, a team that has Jack Hughes, they have Heischer. Other than the goaltending, I don't think their goaltending is anything to write home about. No. But I think that's a team that's pretty well, it should be a lot better than it is. And they played like it on Monday in St. Paul. They played great. And like you said, Matt Boldy hits the side of the cage from kind of a tough angle, but even worse than that was the Vladimir Tarasenko
had one,
wide open cage, and he sends it right through the goal mouth. They definitely had their chances. They didn't capitalize on them, and it's the same thing as the night previous, Saturday against the Islanders, where they had 17 chances in the third period. This is a team that's pretty well loaded when it comes to offensive talent, and it's not going to be a lot of nights where they have 17 shots on goal in a single period and not find the back of the net. So I still, I'm with you. I don't think it's time to hit the old panic button. They have been playing pretty decent for a really long stretch of time. And not only that, this should put it into perspective for you, because we were talking about this in the post-game show. They have 3 losses in regulation on home ice since November 1st, including Monday against the Devils. So they've been playing some good hockey, 12-2-4 in that stretch since November 1st at home. So I think they're doing okay.
Yeah, and even 2 of the losses they had in this 5-game stretch, they got to the extra session. So they're still accumulating points, which at this point, even if you're just getting into overtime, it's going to be hard for teams to catch you in the NHL standings. Some news with the former Minnesota Wild coach, Dean Evason, out as the Columbus Blue Jackets head coach. At the time, they were last place in the East. They've since won and jumped ahead of the New York Rangers. Not surprising, Kevin. When Dean got the job, I'm like, that's not a great spot to go in Columbus. You're not going to have a lot of talent to work with. And, I don't really put any of the situation the Blue Jackets are in on Dean Evason, but still unfortunate for him.
Think about what he navigated last year. The off-ice stuff with Johnny Hockey and his brother passing away. And he was kind of the mouthpiece for the franchise through all that turmoil, and just a sad, sad story for everyone, including especially the Goudreau family, but the world of hockey in particular, and, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then to get clipped here midway through the following season, it's tough. They had to do something. The Blue Jackets are dramatic dramatically underachieving there in the Eastern Conference. And like you said, they just leapfrogged a even worse team in the New York Rangers to get them out of the basement. But, something had to happen, and unfortunately, Dean Evison found himself on the chopping block.
A little bit of injury stuff going on with Joel Eriksson. I think that was the one thing. If you want to go back to the New Jersey game and kind of all the time and space those Devils forwards had in that third period, I think a lot of that can go back to Joel Eriksson. They're already a little thin at the center position, having traded Marco Rossi in that Quinn Hughes trade. But when Eriksson goes out of the lineup, it gets thin in a hurry there, and we know how good he is at shutting down the other team's top guys. Yeah,
and you have to jumble things around. It's tough. To me, I love me some Kaprizov. I love me some Boldy. But I've been saying now for a couple of years, the MVP of this team is Joel Eriksson for everything he does on this team on both ends of the ice, and especially on that second line. When it's him, Boldy, and Johansson, they can do it both offensively and defensively. And for some reason, Johansson in particular, Boldy as well, have wrapped their arms around playing that style of hockey. And Joel Eriksson is just the perfect guy for the middle spot on that line, and to not have him is a significant blow. Now, the Wild were off yesterday, off today, and I mean completely off. They're not practicing. They're not doing anything. So the first time we'll get a chance to see him is tomorrow morning at the morning skate. And I have a pretty good inclination that I think he'll be available Thursday night against the Winnipeg Jets, which would be great. I don't know that.
Reveal your sources, Kevin.
No.
Reveal your sources.
My spidey sense tells me he was available on the ice the other morning, and he was skating with Zach Bogosian. That points to me with 2 full days off, and they're just calling him day to day. I hope and pray that he's ready to help seal off this homestand, because they'll need him. The Jets, I know, have been underachieving as well this year. Devils, Rangers, and now the Winnipeg Jets.
Florida
These
Panthers.
are teams that are really struggling, and but the Jets are on the upswing after losing 11 in a row. Suddenly, they've won 3 straight.
I have a feeling over the next month and a half, Kevin, you and I on this segment, on this show, are going to be talking a lot about trade talk and who the Minnesota Wild could acquire in a trade. And seeing Eriksson go out for a little short amount of time does make you think, are the Wild going to have to go find another center before the trade deadline? It's, defensemen, your blue line's pretty good. Your goaltending's been solid. You've got some high star power on your top 6. It seems like kind of maybe your only place you want to fill in is at that center position, and I have to imagine Bill Guerin's not done swinging.
I'd imagine you're right. I don't know if we talked about it. We certainly had talked about it on Beyond the Pond, but on my wish list, it's Ryan O'Reilly and then everybody else, just because he would provide what you need from a center ice perspective. Now, the problem is the Nashville Predators have made themselves relevant again.
Yeah.
So I don't know how achievable that would be, but, man, he would check a ton of boxes here for Minnesota.
It's funny because my pipe dream was Tage Thompson. Then all of the Buffalo Sabres went on like a 10-game winning streak and put themselves into playoff contention. We've heard the name Sidney Crosby. As of right now, they're still 1 point out in the Eastern Conference, but that'd be quite the get. And the other part is they don't have a lot of prospects to give up anymore. They don't have a lot of draft capital after trading for Quinn Hughes and for David Jiricek a year ago.
Yeah, and that's just it. Here's another one to float out there that makes perfect sense. I know he's not a center, but Artemi Panarin on a really bad Rangers team. At some point, he's going to become an unrestricted free agent, and maybe they want to unload him. Panarin and all the Russians here in Minnesota, boy, what a perfect fit.
Let's just get all of them. He's Kevin Fallness. I'm Brandon Molesky. We'll talk with Mike Snee, Vice President of Foundation and Community Relations for the Minnesota Wild. We'll talk to him next right here on KFAN Wild Weekly. Welcome back, KFAN Wild Weekly. I'm Brandon Molesky, Kevin Fallness from the Minnesota Wild Radio Network with me as well. And we're now pleased to be joined by the Vice President of Foundation and Community Relations for the Minnesota Wild. That would be Mike Snee. Mike, thanks for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Brandon. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Kevin.
Why don't you tell us first about the Skate It Forward program? I'm somewhat familiar with it because the Youth Hockey Association that I'm a part of is one of the pilot programs this year, and it's been very successful. But talk about what Skate It Forward is and how we came up with the idea.
Absolutely. And before I have to talk about Skate It Forward, or before I do talk about Skate It Forward, you've got to talk about community hockey, which is how Minnesotans play their hockey. They play for their community associations with their youth players. They play for their high school when they're in high school, and they do it all in these municipally operated, municipally owned, not-for-profit rinks. It's very unique to Minnesota, very successful. It's why we're the state of hockey. Yet most know, or many know, that youth sports is moving in a very for-profit privatized direction. So in spite of how successful community hockey is, it is also simultaneously threatened. So we created Skate It Forward, which is an initiative of both the Minnesota Wild Foundation and the Minnesota Wild, the business, the Minnesota Wild, to preserve, strengthen, and celebrate community hockey. So that sounds like a mouthful. What we really want to do is we don't want to lose this wonderful part of Minnesota, everything that goes with being a young hockey player, being a hockey family, being a hockey fan in Minnesota. We don't want to lose it. And then while we're at it, because it's not perfect, we want to make it better. So we introduced that less than a year ago, and we have a big moment coming up next week on Hockey Day Minnesota, where we're going to try to raise as much money as we possibly can, because it is a philanthropic campaign, and reinvest it back into all the community hockey associations across the state.
First and foremost, great to hear your voice, Mike. Second of all, give us then the details of what's going on next week with Hockey Day Minnesota, with the event happening in Hastings. How are you guys going forth with the effort to drum up some cash?
Yeah, you got it. And next weekend is the 20th, Hockey Day Minnesota. It's amazing that it's been around that long. It really is, I think, the annual holiday where we celebrate community hockey, and Hastings is hosting it this year, as you said, but every community kind of hosts it in its own special way. I'm a longtime hockey coach, and I will probably be wished or greeted with Happy Hockey Day 20 times on that day when I'm at the rink, whatever rink I'm at. So we're taking that day when everybody has like their ultimate feels for all things community hockey, and asking everybody in the state to contribute what they can, so that we can next year get more girls and boys across the state playing hockey than we have this year, and make this an annual thing. It's kind of like our Give to the Max Day, I would say, for community hockey. So if you love community hockey, if you want it to not only continue to be an important part of Minnesota, but let's make it even better, we're asking people to just give whatever they can a week from Saturday on Hockey Day Minnesota, January 24th. And our longtime partner at the Minnesota Wild, Trio Orthopedics, they're on board. They are going to match dollar for dollar every gift up to $100,000 made between now and Hockey Day Minnesota. So it's really meaningful to us to have their support right from the start of this initiative and of what we're trying to accomplish on Hockey Day Minnesota.
Mike, I'm a huge advocate for community hockey, very passionate about it. I really believe we should have as many kids playing hockey as possible and give everyone an opportunity. I understand why Minnesota Hockey would want to be invested into community hockey and maybe even USA Hockey. Why the Minnesota Wild? Why are they invested in keeping and maintaining community hockey?
Well, as Kevin probably experiences as an employee since day one, the Wild have always been very sincere in their desire to celebrate all things hockey in Minnesota, not just the Minnesota Wild. And that started with the original ownership group, the Nagley family, absolutely continued with the current ownership group, Craig Leopold and his family. The leadership, starting with Matt Maka, has always had a big picture view of this. It's not just a group ticket view. It's not, hey, these people might buy tickets for this game or season tickets or merchandise. It really is a long-term vision of the healthier the sport in our state, the healthier the Minnesota Wild are. And I think you can trace that all the way back to the creation of, or not the creation of the state of hockey, but the phrase the state of hockey. As we often say, the state of hockey has always been here. It's just we gave it a name. We called it the state of hockey. So I really commend the Wild for doing it. I worked for the Wild a long time ago, left for a number of years. And part of the reason I came back was because of how convinced I am of their sincerity to make a real positive impact and do what you just said, get as many girls and boys as possible across the state playing this game. And the Wild are, no doubt, the most powerful hockey organization in the state. And was it Spider-Man or someone said, like, to those who have power comes responsibility, and I appreciate that the Wild want to take that responsibility.
The one and only Mike Snee quoting Spider-Man here on KFAN Wild Weekly.
Has that been done before?
No, I don't think it has, but it won't be the last time. I'll promise you that. Give us kind of your resume. It's impressive. Like you said, you started with the Wild. You came back here. What did you do in between? Give us kind of your roadmap for fans that might recognize the name Mike Snee, but, God, where's he from again?
Well, they don't recognize it because of elite prospects or hockey DB. So if you're checking out my hockey background, that's neither impressive nor will you find it. I've had the good fortune of spending pretty much my entire career working in hockey. Out of college, I went to work for the North Stars, then I worked for the Moose, and was a very early employee of the Wild along with Kevin Fallness, and that was a tremendous experience. Worked for the Wild for 10 years. Then I worked for Minnesota Hockey, the governing body for youth and amateur hockey in Minnesota, starting in 2008. And then in 2012, went to work for a small behind-the-scenes group called College Hockey Inc., which was funded by USA Hockey, and the National Hockey League was a college hockey advocacy organization. And through my time with Minnesota Hockey and my time with College Hockey Inc., I really got exposed to how kids and families experience hockey where they live. Through College Hockey Inc., I really got exposed to how it works in the rest of the continent, the U.S. and Canada, and what it's like for a kid and what it's like for that kid's parents if that kid wants to be a hockey player, whether they're living in Michigan, Massachusetts, Arizona, British Columbia, Ontario, whatever it might be. And it gave me such an appreciation for what we have here in Minnesota, for what you need to do here to be a competitive, aspirational, all-in hockey player versus being that elsewhere. And then doing a lot of research and seeing, like, we get so much from our pile of hockey players here in terms of kids that play their entire childhood. We have a very high retention rate. We over-index when it comes to getting players to the NHL or the PWHL or college hockey. Our families pay a lot less money. They give up a lot less in terms of family time. They're not traveling. They're not in a plane every third weekend, and so on and so on. And so it really became, I don't want to call it a life's calling, but it became a mission and a purpose. And after a decade or so, and continuing to share all of this with people at the Wild, and decided like we needed to take action because, in spite of how good community hockey is, it's, if we don't pay attention to it, it might go away, because youth sports, and especially youth hockey, is big lucrative business. So again, I commend the Wild. I'm fortunate that I've got a background that has revealed some things to me, and feel fortunate that I'm the person that's able to be in this role.
Got two more questions for Mike Snee, Vice President, Foundation Community Relations for the Minnesota Wild. You are right that we should never take community hockey for granted in this state. It is under constant attack, and we have to keep being vigilant and stay on top of it. You mentioned trying to raise awareness for Skate It Forward and making money on Hockey Day Minnesota. If someone wants to donate on that day or donate to Skate It Forward, where's their money? Where's their money going?
The money is going back to community hockey. I'll try to make this short. We really need to preserve our statewide culture of public investment in our ice facilities. There's many reasons why community hockey works well in Minnesota, but without doubt, the single biggest reason is that we put ice arenas in the same bucket as bike paths, community pools, playgrounds, and football fields. They're public assets meant to serve the community. We cannot lose that culture. For the most part, Minnesota is the only place that has that culture, and we have it statewide, not just in the metro area. We have it across the state in all sorts of communities. The best way to preserve that is to simply get more kids playing hockey. If there's more kids in Crookston, more kids in Forest Lake, more kids in Mankato playing hockey, those communities will not only continue to fund their ice facilities, they'll figure out how to add a sheet if necessary. So that's really the mission right there. And so to answer your question, the vast majority of the money that we raise next weekend and all year long through the Skate It Forward initiative will be reinvested back into getting new kids, more kids in Minnesota to be hockey players.
Awesome stuff. Well, I see you around the rink all the time. We bump into each other. Saw you just last week at the Hopkins Pavilion. So it's always fun to cross your path. What is the state of community hockey / youth hockey in Minnesota right now? Are you feeling good about where it's at? I know where you want it to be, but do you feel good at where we're at currently?
Absolutely. And again, I want to emphasize it's not perfect, and part of what we're trying to do is get it closer to perfect. There are so many kids in Minnesota playing hockey when you compare it to elsewhere, and not that this is a comparison game, but I think that's how you figure out, hey, is the way it's done here more desirable, or is it the way it's done elsewhere more desirable? The game, we're building rinks still. We're funding our rinks. We've got this really cool kind of side organic movement towards building all of these covered, refrigerated outdoor rinks in the state. Kevin, your hometown was the first one there at the Rock in St. Louis Park, which I'm sure you love. It's magical. We've built about close to a dozen of those in the past decade. Delano just opened theirs a month or two ago. So we have all these good things going on. You look at any roster that comes out, the women's U18 roster, which recently just played, and it's just over-indexed with Minnesotans on it. So it's really good. It's really good. It's better than anywhere else, but we can't take it for granted because it can be gone quickly.
You're correct, Mike. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate all your efforts as well. I know the Skate It Forward program has been great for our community, and you're doing good things. Appreciate it.
You got it, Brandon. Thanks, guys.
See you, Mike.
All right, that's Mike Snee, Vice President, Foundation and Community Relations. He's Kevin Fallness. You'll be back on the air tomorrow night, 7 o'clock puck drop with the Winnipeg Jets.
The end of the 3-game homestand, and then they're back on the road again. But first, you got to get past the Jets. Pre-game at 6:45 right here on The Fan.
He's Kevin Fallness. I'm Brandon Molesky. This has been KFAN Wild Weekly. We'll talk to you next week.
The best place to go for all your Minnesota Wild audio needs is the official Minnesota Wild podcast presented by Acrisure. Everything Minnesota Wild related, including highlights, press conferences, players, coaches, general managers, and more. It's available on the official Minnesota Wild podcast presented by Acrisure. It's all just a click away at wild.com/podcast.